Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the vlog. Welcome back to another Get Your Fish On video podcast show. Hope you are doing well. Hope that you're able to go fishing. Hey, hopefully you're able to hear this, and hopefully you will enjoy the upcoming interview that I just recorded. I'm going to put it out here the same day. There's a lot of interviews. There's a few interviews coming up. Today we have Patrick Walters. Tomorrow we have Kevin Rogers, who's a crappie fisherman who is taking his leap into the professional fishing league of the NPFL, and we'll talk to him tomorrow. And I'm looking, you'll enjoy that. Both of the interviews have already been recorded, and they just are, they're ongoing. If you are local, you don't know the shad and crappie derby is going on. It's a good segue from Kevin Rogers, who's a professional crappie fisherman. And that's going on right now. I know that the crappie fishing has been pretty decent. Not great, not bad. Hey, Paul. And I appreciate that. But it's been pretty good. But there's not been a lot of things going on since the person that we're going to talk to here shortly, Patrick Walters, who just won the Lake Fork tournament for the Bass Elites. If you didn't know, if you have no clue on what happened, Patrick absolutely crushed fish. I mean, he put an ass whooping on that has never happened in its life. 29 pounds over second place. It was phenomenal to watch. Hey, Craig. It was phenomenal to watch. So we finally have him on. I actually tried to get Patrick on after his Central Open win on Lake Hartwell, but he went directly into another tournament, which led into another tournament, which led into another tournament, and then his win. So for the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's really been almost impossible to get a hold of. And then to come to find out, he says, and you'll see in the interview, just call him. He'll come on anytime. And that's my fault. I kind of felt like if I called or if I asked or if I texted that maybe I was interrupting or would disrupt his flow, and I just don't want to do that. So it's a great interview. We kind of go all over places. Excuse me, I hit that microphone. We kind of go all over on a whole bunch of stuff, but I got to be honest, it's a pretty fantastic interview. We dive into a couple things that I don't always get into, but I think you'll find out it's a really good, really good interview. So that'll be here in a few minutes. If you didn't know, if you haven't heard the news, let me get my notes up. Bass Elites, this is huge news, huge news. It happened yesterday. The Bass Elites and the Classic are now going to broadcast on Fox Sports 1. They'd previously been on ESPN, but they really didn't know how much would be on ESPN2. So this move, from what all I can tell, is a massive thing for Bass, because they've got set times. They're going to be on during the Classic on Fox themselves, on I think maybe Fox Sports on the main channel, and then every tournament will be on Fox Sports 1. So congratulations to the Bass Elites guys. That allows them to get a little bit more exposure for their sponsors. It also allows Bass to kind of grow and kind of take a little chunk out of what Major League Fishing has done, because Major League Fishing ends up putting their stuff back on Discovery Channel and stuff like that. That's where Major League Fishing has had somewhat the upper hand until this year for television schedule. To be truthful, I kind of liked it be on any ESPN2. That's just me personally. I can tell you that during this COVID time, there were a couple tournaments that they came out and had the Bass tournament on, and the ratings and the viewership was stupid. Excuse me. Sorry, I have to drink. I need to drink as much water as possible. The ratings were stupid. So I enjoyed it on ESPN2 because it's something I can put on the big television and watch permanently. I'm not sure if I have Fox Sports. I don't even know, to be honest. But as long as I can watch it online, then I can watch it on my big TV. If you want to know why I'm worried about my voice has finally come back. It's now Wednesday morning, and this is November 18th when I'm recording this at 11:50 Eastern Standard Time. My voice was gone this weekend. We had swim meets Friday evening, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning, and I was rooting for the whole team while I was also rooting for Thomas. I ended up screaming a lot for a lot of other kids other than Thomas, and I lost my voice. So it's finally gotten back. It's still a little raspy, but you know what? You got to root for the team. Just like us. If you're watching this, you're part of the Get Your Fish On team. That's what it is. I should mention, I still do have prize packs. If you're watching this and want a prize pack, info@fishingfloridaradio.com. There are six companies that support and send out prize packs. And I should say, thank you to Starbright Startrons. Thank you to DOA Lures. Thank you to Mir Lure. Thank you to Egret Baits. Thank you to, of course, I don't remember the other ones. Hold on. I'm bringing up my email. Thank you to, where are they? Prize packs. Why do I not see anything? I hate all the new Mac stuff that they did. Thank you to Egret Baits. Thank you to TTI Blakemore. How do I forget them? Thank you to DOA Lures. And thank you to Culprit Riptide. And also all the sponsors on the bottom. Tackle Web, Shimano, Yamaha, Engel Coolers, Costa Sunglasses, Daiichi, and Hook. But I still have them. All you got to do is email us, info@fishingfloridaradio.com. Let me just stress right now, I do not send these out. I give your name and your addresses. If you send a P.O. box, I don't send it to them. But if you send me your real address, I send your name to them. They don't spam you. They don't send you crap. They don't have your email address. All they do is have your physical address. And when they're able to send out products, they send them to you. And it's free. Just saying. Don't give me shit if you don't get it right away. It's coming, though. It's coming. There's thousands, tens of thousands of people who have gotten these things from us. So there it is. In other news, 8 million new anglers fishing, 8 million new fishing licenses sold since COVID. Thank you. This is awesome. Now the thing is how do we keep these saltwater and freshwater anglers? How do we keep them fishing? That's what we need to do. Tackle sales, rods, fishing tackle, everything is booming in 2020. While we've had to stay home more and do other things and have to deal with our family, yeah, we have to deal with our family. We have had a very unbelievable, successful year in 2020 for fishing. 8 million new angler licenses is absolutely phenomenal. It's probably, I think I can say it's probably the best we've ever done in fishing licenses. So there it is. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this interview. It's kind of long, but I'm telling you right away, it's absolutely ridiculous. This is our interview that was just recorded. Physically was recorded 2 hours ago, 10 o'clock, with the great Patrick Walters from the Bass Elites. So here you go. Hit and record. Hey guys, I couldn't be happier to have one of the young, I hope you don't mind me saying young, by the way, one of the young great anglers that's on the Elite Series. He's in his second season on the Elites. He came in third in Angler of the Year points. He's had 21 top 10s with 5 wins. You can find him at PatrickWaltersFishing.com. He won the Eastern Open, which I was hoping to talk to him after the Eastern Open on Lake Hartwell, but then he came back on Lake Fork and just smashed them. Literally, he'll tell you, he absolutely smashed them. His sponsors include Rapala, Phantom Outdoors, Yamaha, Minn Kota, Humminbird, Daiwa, PowerPole, Falcon Boats. I don't know if it's is it Relion? I don't know. Relion, VMC, BF Goodrich, Lure Lock, Super Stick, Zoom, Suffix, Mystic Lubricants, Tupperware Auto, TH Marine, and Zorro. I could not be happier to have on the show with me right now. Here he is, Patrick Walters. How are you, dude?
Man, I'm doing great. Can't complain. Things are going good.
I just noticed it. You got it in the background.
Yep, she's in the background. Yep. I actually had a gator head over there next to it. I had to scoot the gator head over. You actually can see it right there a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
See the gator head?
Yeah. How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Got to do a little deer hunting last night. Going to go again this afternoon, but kind of slowly progressing to a little bit of hunting. Now we got one more tournament left of the year still, but I think that was one thing a lot of people started deer hunting months ago.
You have
where I was still focused on fall fishing,
yeah,
and because the fall fishing is my favorite thing to do. But got the truck sold, camper sold, the boat is sold. We're trying to get ready for next year.
So tell me a little bit. I think we saw each other at the St. John's. I might have asked you this at the St. John's, but I might as well start it off right. How did you get introduced to the outdoors?
My dad, 100%. My dad was my biggest role model into fishing and the outdoors in general. And growing up, we hunted a bunch. I mean, we dove hunt, turkey hunt, deer hunted, duck hunted, didn't matter. And we actually were saltwater fishermen more than anything, because I'm in Somerville, which is about 25 minutes from the coast.
Mm-hmm.
And we inshore for, trout, redfish, flounder, and we did a bunch of offshore fishing. And in the 6th grade, I fished a Fishers of Men Legacy tournament, which is an adult junior format, with a good buddy of mine, Bradford Beavers, who actually fishes the FLW Tour now. Back then, we were just two goobers and we didn't know anything. And I was like 6th grade, and that first tournament that I fished with him, I mean, it was early in the morning, those 2-strokes cranking up, all that smell, the 2-strokes, the blast off, the boat race, everything. And then you're going in there and you're catching fish. And I mean, it was America, they're like, this is the greatest sport in the world. And I told Dad when I got home that day, I said, Dad, we got to get into bass fishing. And I don't know if it's been downhill or uphill since that, but he's been my tournament partner. He's 100% had faith in me, supported me all the way through. The first couple bass tournaments we ever fished were actually out of a Hughes flats boat. And then once we realized that, like, hey, we like bass fishing, we ended up getting a bass boat and just working at it step by step from there.
Do you still do any saltwater fishing when it's off season?
I do it some right about this time of year. Come like November, we'll do some shallow red fishing. I'll go offshore fishing probably 2 or 3 times a year with a buddy or something. But
yeah,
I do a little. I probably make 5 to 8 saltwater trips a year inshore. Now's the time to do it. I don't know how much I'm going to get this year, just with how delayed we were into the fall. Because now it's, hey, I'm trying to get a new boat, trying to get all the electronics put on it, and get ready for the upcoming season.
Okay, I've never ever asked anyone this, so I'm a saltwater person first, and then I've had to learn. Not like I didn't do bass fishing my whole life, but I always find saltwater like snook, redfish, trout. Not really trout, but redfish and snook are my favorites. Do you not think that redfish, especially where you are, I imagine you go red fishing. Do you not find that redfish pull just a little bit harder than the green fish?
It's not even a comparison.
Okay.
They would drown a largemouth bass.
Yes.
They would drown a smallmouth. I mean, I've learned so much from fishing for redfish, where like here in Charleston, you'll find an oyster bed that's in 1 foot of water, and like the boat's dragging to get there to it, and you're throwing a little jig head up there. I mean, and you're catching 20 fish off of 1 oyster bed, and you're like, how can you not see them?
Yeah.
So it's kind of brought that to freshwater, truly how shallow these fish will get. I love the saltwater side. I love how much they pull. They do taste a lot better, but the thing about the freshwater is it's always that puzzle. It's that mystery of figuring them out each day. The bite, there's so many more variables in freshwater fishing for some reason, where it's colors, depth, all that. Where them redfish, I mean, he's going to be on that oyster bed somewhere within this 1 mile. I haven't gone that deep into saltwater fishing, but for some reason, the freshwater is just, you can dive into it that much more.
Well, I think saltwater fishing, you really get more your scents, your Berkeley gulps, those kind of stuff really have a big influence on how well you fish, or they have a better, I think they have a better scent smell than bass do. But I mean, bass is the king, let's be honest.
It is. I think it's definitely the king's head, like the fishing industry, because it's such a niche market where there's so many things that people are buying tackle wise. I think smallmouth, though, from what I've learned this year as well, they are absolutely huge on scent. Like largemouth, I don't really feel like they care that much, but I'm telling you, smallmouth, I had like 4 cents in the boat this year just because I thought it was going to make a difference. I mean, you saw what that Max Sent was doing for a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was taking smelly jelly, smearing all my baits in it, soaking it in packs of stuff, just because I think the scent for smallmouth is definitely something to mess with.
You mentioned it just a minute ago. You're not really a big smallmouth person, but looking at your these last few tournaments, I mean, 11th in Santee Cooper. Chickamauga, you're still. I guess you're largemouth fishing in Chickamauga too, though. But it's this fall fishing, and then Lake Fork. You just what I was going where I was going with this was you win the Open on where was that on Hartwell in September. Then you finish right after that 11th, 22nd, and 1st. How does when you win Hartwell in that Open? How does that confidence bring you through the rest of this fall season?
I'd say so. I mean, you really you build your momentum. It gives you that confidence and everything that you got, from your electronics to your equipment to your mindset to your finding your fishability, where there's different sets of momentum. And like last year, I messed up where I was leading AOY halfway through the year, or through the first like 4 tournaments. It wasn't much. And I kind of put it on, once we went up north, I kind of put it on like a lackadaisical cruise control. And you can't really control it. And then I didn't fish as hard. I fished hard, but it was just, you didn't have that right momentum going for you for some reason. And then this year after Hartwell, it was like I could put it on that cruise control again, but it was at a different speed. I mean, saying that, it doesn't really make sense, but like I showed up at Cherokee with 2 days of practice, because I was like, I mean, I'm just going to show up and just do what I'm going to do and see what happens. Meaning like I was just going to fish a certain pattern. I'm like, I'm not going to force it. I don't need a week of practice. And showed up and luckily somehow finished 10th there. Just stumbled on some fish in 2 days. And so there's different types of that momentum. It's like when you get that Hartwell win, it carries for every tournament. Where when you go up north last year, I kind of just got back. I finished 52nd and 56th at Guntersville. For some reason, I don't know why, but Guntersville has been the nail in my side and the thorn in my side for some reason. And that used to be in college my favorite lake, hands down.
Really?
I have no idea what changed. I mean, my spring break, my sophomore year of high school, me and Dad went to Guntersville for vacation. That was what I did on spring break. Just me and Dad went fishing for a week. And in college, I think I had like 3 or 4 top 10s at Guntersville. And then last year with the Elite, I finished 56th there. And then we had the Classic, and it was a subpar. It was in the 30s. Somewhere. Good one. 14 pounds was up there a little ways. And then day 2, I only weighed in 2 fish. But execution is what's the biggest thing in the fall, where I lost like 7 keepers that second day and ended up only weighing in 6 pounds and missed the top 40 cut by 3 pounds, I think. So just that one day of fishing at Guntersville bit me again. It's probably, I mean, if you look back, probably could have what cost me AOY, but I had no idea I was even anywhere close to AOY until after Fork. But Clark Wendell truly worked hard, and he deserved it this year.
So I don't know if maybe I'm hearing this. Do you not look at where your standings were at the AOI during the year to see you didn't?
Sometimes I do, but honestly, it was I was kind of upset after the Northern Swing this year, because I went up there with such a different mindset. To find the fish and to really work hard. And at Champlain, St. Lawrence, and St. Clair, I was within a mile of the winners at every single tournament. And so I felt like I worked hard. I found the winning fish, but I just didn't execute this year. And so after that, I was like 44th and a 42nd and then a 22nd. So it was a little better than last year, but I was so close to the fish. And then I ended up, and then we had Guntersville next, and I fell back to like 20-something in points. And once I fell out of 20-something points, I just like, who cares? I'm just going to fish hard for the rest of the season, not even going to look at it. Never looked at it until probably like day 3 at Lake Fork. Like not even after saying T or whatever, didn't even care. And I was like, oh my God, wow, I was closer than I thought I was.
Yeah. Third's amazing. I mean, coming from FLW, and then when we had the big, as everyone calls the big shakeup 2 years ago, Has it always been your goal to get into the elites and fish the elites and win a classic in AOI? I mean, who did you look up to when you were growing up?
Absolutely. That's always been my dream because you always saw those guys. I mean, Kevin Van Dam. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the hero. Rick Clunn, still a living legend that you get to fish with, like Greg Hackney, those guys. I mean, those were the guys when you saw on TV, you were just like, I mean, you took it, what they said was the gospel. You know, I mean, it was set in stone. If he said it, it was like, yeah, that's true. Like, you don't doubt it because it was just, they were the living legends. I mean, and it's always been my goal to fish bass. Because after graduating college, you know, I wanted to fish professionally. I wanted to fish professionally before college, but Mom was like, "I'd like you to get that college degree." And thanks to Mama on that one,
Yes.
that was a good move. But once I graduated college, I was either going to go try to fish FLW Tour or the Opens. And I said, you know what? I try to plan ahead, you know, 1 year and 5 years ahead. I said, the Elites is where I want to be. The Bassmaster Elites, that's where I want. That's long term. I said I'm going to fish the Opens no matter what until I get in. I'm not even because I wanted to fish for a living, but I didn't. FLW Tour is a great division. Great, they have everything. The Tackle Warehouse Tour, I guess is what they call it now.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Yeah, they change the name so many times. But the Elites was definitely that was where I wanted to be, hands down.
Yeah. Coming from FLW, it kind of lets you learn how the whole process, not the process, but how to become a professional angler. And moving into the elites is, I mean, I don't think anyone can not say the elites are the king of fishing still now. You heard the news yesterday that you guys are going to be on Fox Sports 1. What are your thoughts on leaving ESPN 2 to go to Fox Sports? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's actually great. You know, the thing with ESPN2, I think a lot of people watch ESPN2, and I think it gets a lot of coverage. But it was the variable of, are we even going to be on ESPN2?
Yeah.
But now where Fox Sports is like, hey, it's guaranteed all 9 tournaments. I mean, it's almost a no-brainer. You know, now that it's guaranteed coverage all the time, I think it's going to be a great move, especially for the sport of bass fishing. I mean, we're going to be on TV. I mean, it's the more publicity, the better.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's going to be a different change, but I think in this one instance, I think it's a really good change. I mean, I think it's a really good change. Okay. I want to talk about Hartwell before we get to Lake Fork. When you got to Hartwell for the Open, which, let's be honest, there's the Opens this year are some of the best competition out there.
They're stacked. It's very impressive the field this year.
Yes. When you get there to Hartwell, how did practice go? How did you feel as you started that tournament?
That was probably one of the better practices that I've ever had for finding fish. I don't think I've ever found that many fish in practice. Just kind of dial in my electronics and I knew the area of the lake I wanted to fish. I usually fish the same area every single time. It's just that mid area of the lake, main strip, that main lake, mid lake area is there's just always a lot of fish there. And everywhere I went, I mean, the fish were just there. The thing was, they would be on a main point or on a cane pile, but they'd be 50 yards off to the side or 100 yards off to the side. And you just had to find those populations of fish, kind of where they were scooting around. And I found when you start finding those hidey hole fish that, you know, nobody's really messing with, that's when you're like, okay, I got that in my back pocket. That I'm like, I feel pretty good about it because I found a couple. It was like a bare bank going into a pocket. I mean, it was just absolutely nothing on it. And there'd be 50 fish just sitting on a suspended. And I'm like, I have no idea why they're there. But when I had like probably 3 or 4 stretches like that I hardly even tapped into. And so I was like, man, if I could that makes you feel good when you can go run a bunch of other stuff. And then if you need some fish, hey, I can go burn those if I need to. Mm-hmm. And that first morning, I got to the boat landing. I was the first one on day 1 to the boat landing. I put it in a different lane and was going to run over. And I'm backing the boat down. And for some reason, it just like something dawned over me. Like I got mad at them. Like I wanted to go out there and just fight them fish. You know, I have no idea what it was. But I mean, it was just like a weird, I'm backing down. I'm by myself, you know, and I'm like, I'm about to go catch them. Like I'm telling you, it was just like instantly just serious. Like if somebody would have confronted me, I mean, it would have probably been a hostile situation. And for no reason, I'm just backing the boat down. I'm like, I'm about to go freaking catch them. Because I was like, I hate finding all the fish. Sometimes not all the fish. I hate finding groups of fish and putting all the work in and not catching them. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna catch them this week, and we'll just see what happens. And I have no idea why that occurred. And then every day, just kind of, I was surprised with how low the weights were. What it kind of took. I thought it was gonna take a little more weight than that, but every day I just got blessed with a good bite here and there. Where when it's your time, it truly is your time, because little things have to just go your way. Where day one, you know, I didn't catch a fish over 3.5 pounds in practice all day. And I'm throwing a fluke about midday, and a 12-incher comes up and eats it, and I already got a limit. I kind of pull it out of his mouth, and a 4-pounder comes and eats it out of his mouth, and I'm like, you need little things like that to go your way.
It's really funny that you say this, because there's been in all of I'm generalizing all of fishing when I say this. There's times when years ago, I just talked to Randy Howell last week. Randy Howell is in the Classic, and out of nowhere, something says to go this way. And then you have there's been other people that recently said, you know, something hit me, like I was in a zone, like I'm basketball, and there were times when you used to watch Michael Jordan and these guys, and they would say the hoop is this big. It doesn't matter. I'm just throwing it up there. When you say that about Lake Hartwell, it's almost like you've zoned into something that nobody else has figured out. When you get into that zone, how hard is it to just go, okay, I need to stop fishing here and move on to some other places? Or do you just go, I am just going to wreck them. I'm ripping their asses. Sorry. I said I wasn't going to swear. Ripping their faces off right now. That's what I'm going to do. How hard is that not to do?
It's hard. I mean, it's because you can't control that variable. I mean, if you could harness that energy, it's unreal, because it doesn't matter if you're staying on them or you're moving. It's just like, you don't make the decisions. Like, your body moves and all of a sudden you're just like, we got to go. But usually there's not much thought process into it for some reason, where usually in a normal day of fishing, you're like, all right, that's probably going to be my next move. That's going to be my next one. Like, you're thinking ahead of time. But when you get that energy, all of a sudden it's like, I need to go down the lake 2 miles right now. There's a point down there. I just remembered the wind's right. Like, and you pick the trolling motor up and you don't even, like, you're in mid cast and you're like, let me just reel this in. Like, who cares? And you just go. And I have no idea how you harness that or how you even get that energy. It's definitely, I think, Matt Robertson calls it the Wojo.
Yeah.
I think that's what they phrased it as. And it happened day 4 at Lake Fork as well. That final day was, you know, I'm sitting there, I'm moving spot to spot, and I'm beating the deep water. I'm fishing standing timber, and they're following my bait. And it was like, Patrick, it ain't happening. Like, how much time are you going to spend out here before you change, you know? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, it's time to head shallow. And I picked the trolling motor up, and I was like, oh my God, they're in here. Yeah. Like, it's about to go down. And it was no doubt in I had 11 pounds all day long. Like, and at 1:30, and I pulled in there, and I was like, you just knew it was going to happen. And then I caught one, and it was like a 1-pounder, and then I caught a 2-pounder, and then I caught a 3-pounder. And I'm telling you, by the end of that momentum, I mean, I thought I was going to win the truck. Like, I felt like there was nothing that was going to stop me from catching them. Like, it's so weird when you get that ball rolling like that. It really is.
When you're in that zone. Speaking of Lake Fork, now that we've talked about Hartwell, I mean, the Hartwell win was awesome. I mean, it really the momentum you've had after that was just fantastic. I remember talking to, I don't even know who our bass person is that we talked to, and I said, hey, I think I have Patrick's number, but could you give it to me? And she goes, look, he's going to fish the next tournament, so don't bother him. I'm like, okay, I'll wait till this whole run is over, and then
you can always bother me. And the best tip of advice, call me. I'm terrible about getting back on text messages for some reason. I am old school in that way for some reason, and I have not figured that out why, but I'm always better with a phone call. I appreciate that. I mean, we talked the other day. Okay, so now you go to Santee Cooper, you finish 11th. You finish 22nd at Chickamauga, by the way, I'm not a fan of Chickamauga. I went during the winter. Someone should have told me that they drain all the water out during the winter, because I went there and I rented a house to go fish for the week. I couldn't even hit the water from the dock I was on. Oh my! Hey, the pictures, it shows it's waterfront. They got a boat.
Yes, that's where I stayed.
This is gonna be great.
Yeah, I did watch a guy catch an 8-pound smallmouth at the dam at Chickamauga.
Wow.
And then everything changed. I only lost like 35 jigs at the dam that day. Everything got snagged. That's another story. Okay. You get over to Lake Fork. How was your practice at Lake Fork just a week and a half ago?
It was good. It was kind of like that same feeling of Hartwell for some reason, of just when things kind of go well. It was basically the same pattern that I did at Cherokee the week prior. I had the rods tied on from doing the same thing. The only thing, I got to Lake Fork Sunday morning at about 10 o'clock, and I spent that afternoon rigging because practice started on Monday. Rigging, I tied on a bunch of big swim baits, 25-pound fluorocarbon, 30-pound fluorocarbon, big rods, and I pulled out there, stopped on a road bed, saw some fish. Was not impressed with the water clarity at all the whole week. It really was just kind of dirty, kind of tea colored. And I think that is the kind of the average color of fork, but it looked just a little bit dirtier. And I stumbled on that pattern kind of like in the first hour, 2 hours of fishing the first day. I pulled into a pocket and I saw two fish over on some stumps kind of swimming down the bank to me. And I was like, man, those fish might bite a jerk plug, and I picked it up and I threw it over there, and I call it dancing on it because you're just jerking that bait and they're following it every move. They're just sitting there chasing it, and I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna bite it this week, And I didn't end up catching them, and I went to the back of that pocket and I caught a 3-pounder on a swim bait, and that was probably the best one that I caught all practice, and it was super shallow, 1 foot, and that was a good thing that I didn't listen to that. You kind of have to. Just one bite sometimes is a fluke. You gotta, and in the fall it's hard because the fish are always scattered. That's why I didn't think 100 pounds was possible, because they are feeding on bait, but they're in pockets, they're on points, they're on main lake, they're on secondary, they're on pond dams, they're everywhere. They're not so condensed those are in the pre-spawn and post-spawn where people usually catch 100 pounds. And when I saw those two fish chase that jerkbait, I was like, I'm going to go look at some timber now. Like, let me go around, went around the corner, and first patch of standing timber I pulled in there, I caught two, and I was like, okay. And then I went a little bit further down, and I lost one that was about 6 pounds, and that was the biggest one I hooked in practice, and I ended up losing them, but I was like, hey, there's good fish here. And then for the next 2.5 days, all I did was just kind of ride around the lake, found areas with good clean water, good depth, good standing timber that had the bait and had some fish in there, and just tried to find all the areas. And I was thinking 15 to 17 pounds was what I was going to catch. I thought that's kind of what was possible. And I felt like I could kind of catch fish pretty good. If I pulled up a new area and it had all the right stuff, I was going to catch one. I mean, it was just, they were biting pretty decent. But I had no idea. The biggest one was like 3 pounds. They were all 2 to 3 pounders. And then the first day, I started in Little Caney. And at 11:30 or 11 o'clock, I had 17 or 18 pounds. And I told my marshal, I said, dude, we're doing great. Like we're almost done
smashing
here.
it.
I was like, man, this is way better than I anticipated. I said, I'm just going to go around the corner and run up the lake a little bit and go hit one more spot for the day and see if we can just go catch a big fish. We got 4 hours to kill. I mean, we're doing good. If I just can get a big bite, we're done. And at 11:30, I pulled in at that area above Lake Fork Marina where I caught a good bit of my weight and culled everything out at 11:30 to 3 o'clock. And I was like, that's a fluke. I mean, every stump I pulled into was a 3 or 4 pounder. Like it was every one. And I've only seen that happen a couple times in my life when the bite gets that good. So in my mind, I was like, that was probably a fluke of just the weather was right. The barometric, it's like when Florida, when that perfect day for them to push in to spawn, like every fish just swims up there and like you just casting a stick bait in there and they're biting it. And that's kind of what it felt like. It was, everything was just right in the big fish bit. And then we get back to weighing and Rick Clunn's got 29 pounds. And I was like, yeah, the big fish, hey, they bit today. Tomorrow I'll go out there and try to catch 15 to 17 pounds and stay in it. And then the next day went back out there and started right where we left off. And I was like, wow, this is a little better than I thought it was going to be.
There's something special happening. How important was having all the electronics? Could you see the fish on your electronics and knew that they were on a stump that was in? How deep of water were you fishing?
I was fishing the shallow stuff. It was like 5 and less.
Okay.
Were in some of those pockets, but the trees I was fishing was mostly probably like 8 foot to 35 foot.
Oh,
but they had to be suspended. That's what I was really doing. The fish were not sitting nowhere near the bottom.
okay.
They'd be high in the trees, and electronics was definitely a major factor. You're using the Mega 360 to see the depth changes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can find the trees on the bottom. And then I'd actually use forward facing sonar to find the trees that they were sitting on, and then you can kind of pick them apart.
Did you, when you have all those great components and electronics, and I watched you had a great interview with Luke, which was fantastic. You guys were talking about all that stuff about electronics. But do you think that the fish might be able to feel that forward facing sonar? I mean, is it at some point going to hurt us in fishing, or is it just going to continue to get better?
100%. There's going to be ebbs and flows in everything in fishing, from technology to fishing pressure to fishing deep to fishing shallow. There really will be. I can tell at Hartwell, when the open, they could already feel the sonar on them.
Really?
Because they would get within 40 feet of the boat and they would not bite at all. Wouldn't even touch your bait. They would just kind of instantly go down. And so I cut all my 2D sonar off. I cut all my side scan off when I'm fishing, where I'm only running 360 and forward facing sonar. That's the only ones I leave on. Mm-hmm. And that's why I feel like you got to make long casts, because as they get closer to the boat, they can feel that. And so I feel like there is going to be a swing. You just kind of have to be on. You got to be on that leading edge of what's the next bite, of where they're going to go. Shallow fishing will prevail in the future. I don't know when. It might be a couple of years, could be next year. You never know. But the good thing is shallow fishing is truly my passion. And that's why I feel like with all this technology nowadays, I'm not afraid to get off of the bank, because I can still see everything that I'm fishing. Back in the day, I didn't like fishing offshore because I felt like I was wasting casts. I didn't know what I was casting at. I didn't know where the fish were at. Mm-hmm. But now I'm looking at it. It's just like I'm looking at it up on the bank. It's just, hey, it's a little bit deeper, Yeah. And my buddy in college who taught me this, it was the biggest tip of advice for ever fishing deep, because I used to think fishing deeper than 5 foot was deep. And when we got 20 feet, I'm like, oh my God, like 20 feet, we're wasting our time. But he said, look at your boat. You got a 20-foot bass boat. If you turn that bass boat up like that, that's 20 feet deep. I was like, man, that's actually not that deep. If you think about that. If you think about your boat and you turn it up and that's 20 feet, I'm like, oh, that's not bad, Yeah. And then that was something that simple, just gives you a little confidence in not worrying about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think all the sonar and all the stuff that's going on, it just seems like everyone's got every bit of sonar on every part of their boat. And I know that when we got gulp first here in the lagoon, there were a time where as soon as that gulp hit the water, you got a redfish. And then there's times where you throw that gulp and you go, why the hell is that fish turning away from that bait? But he knows it. He knows that smell is something that could possibly hurt him. Okay, you qualified for your second classic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Lake Fork, you're in Texas. How much is what you learned from Lake Fork can you use on where you're going to fish at the classic?
I'm not sure how much will play, but just the fact that Texas in general, of learning those bodies of water, how much timber's there. I do like Texas fishing. I compare it to, it's very similar to how I fish. East Texas is, because Santee Cooper's my home lake, and it's shallow, it's stumpy. We fish a bunch of trees. So I feel like it's going to set up similar. But the biggest thing that I like about the classic being in Fort Worth on Ray Roberts, it's on a completely new body of water that nobody's been to really. It's not the same old, same old. I kind of get burned out on going to the same bodies of water, because like at Guntersville, to win that tournament, to win usually a tournament there, you got to fish the most obvious things in the lake. You got to fish the bridges. You got to fish marinas, that stuff. And to me, I hate doing that. I'm telling you, I like finding off the wall stuff. And that's just me as a fisherman in general, of just, I do need to break down and fish more obvious stuff sometimes. But at Ray Roberts, nothing's obvious really for everybody, because it's new for everybody. There hasn't been 1,000 tournaments there where everybody go look at results and watch thousands of videos. I'm excited about Ray Roberts. I really am, just because fish are big in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, So hopefully it'll be a big classic. It'll be a big one for somebody.
Oh yeah. Are you going to do any pre-fishing before there, or what? Is there any strategy to try to learn that lake before you get there? Because I'll be there in March too, covering it. But are you going to do any research, or how does that go for you?
Oh, absolutely. I do research for every single tournament. You know, I do a bunch of online research, a bunch of Google Earth. I'm big on map study. You know, I'm going to look at the contours, kind of see what the lake has to offer, and look at the time of year. You know, there's three things that fish live their entire life on. They're focused on the spawn, whatever they can do to survive, and their next meal. You know, that's the only three things that they do. That's how they live their life. And so if you can look at all the variables, you know, hey, is it pre-spawn, post-spawn, are they spawning? And you look at that time of year, see where they're at. And then what I mean by survive, you know, if the water's dropping, those fish are going to move out because they're not going to get stuck there. They're going to do whatever they can to survive. And then what are they eating? You know, what kind of forage are they facing? So just kind of looking at all that stuff, and then it'll kind of dictate where they're at, usually generally in the lake and stuff like that. And I think I'm going to try to go out there and pre-fish one day. I don't know if I'm going to get to, just because it is in Texas. It's like 17 hours away. Yeah. But if I don't get out there to pre-fish, then I'm just going to go out, just really do a lot of studying prior and kind of make a general idea. And then when we get there for official practice, just hunker down and let the fish do the talking at that point. Because there's been a lot of tournaments where I go in with 1,000 ideas. And then as soon as I dump that boat in the water, I'm cutting everything I had tied on, cutting it off, tying different stuff on, trying different patterns, because you're like, oh no, that doesn't look right, you know. No, we got to cut that chatterbait off, tie a spinnerbait on, you know, cut the square bell on, you got to tie a shad wrap on, just always ever changing.
Okay, only a couple more questions. I'm going to do a video just on people becoming young anglers, becoming professional anglers. How do they get there? If someone were to come up to you and say, hey, even if it's a college angler or it's a high school angler, and they were to say, what are some of your ideas on becoming a professional angler? What would you say to the youth who want to get into the elites in the future, or hopefully in the future?
You have to set goals. You got to set big goals. You gotta be positive all the time, and you got to work at it. But my biggest tip of advice is don't worry about sponsors. Don't even think about that when you're getting started. I think you need to set goals of where you want to go. You got to have a 1-year plan, a 2-year plan, and a 5-year plan. Like, hey, 5 years, I want to be at the elites. So you set goals of what you're going to do to get there, and then you work as hard as you can, and you fish as much as possible. Time on the water is everything. When I first got started out, I didn't even worry about sponsors. You know, I feel like you got to fish. You got to go out there and you got to catch fish, get your name out there. And over time, as you continually building your progress up and getting closer and, you know, having positive results, positive things happen. The sponsor that approaches you is a sponsor that you're going to land 10 out of 10 times. Whereas the sponsor that you approach and you're cold calling, that's 1 or 2 out of 10 times. So you got to just work hard. You got to get your name out there and just put in the time, and then things will kind of happen. That's a weird way of doing it. It's the longer road, but I feel like it pays off more.
Yeah. You said something that I really appreciated there. Keeping positive is the whole thing. There's going to be ups and downs in 100%. Fishing, and you can only do what you can do, and staying
Absolutely.
positive.
You're only in control of your world, of your bubble. You know, you just don't worry about anybody else. Don't worry about what he's doing. Don't worry about anything negative. You know, you just control what's in your little zone, and don't worry about anything else. And then sooner or later, that zone gets bigger, and I mean, positive things happen. You got to have a positive attitude, and you got to work hard and time on the water, and things, they'll start to fall into place.
Awesome. Patrick, I appreciate the time. Well, I'd like to do this before the Classic if possible, but I'll call you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want everyone to go to PatrickWaltersFishing.com. Check him out on Facebook. You're on I imagine you're on Instagram and stuff like that too.
Yes, sir. At Patrick Walters Fishing.
Yep. Check him out. Go subscribe, do all that stuff. And to be honest, I don't want to say it this early. I kind of feel like you might be one of the people to watch at the Classic. I kind of got a feeling that, you know, you figured something out that, I mean, you absolutely demolished people last weekend, man. It was like I hate to say this, it was one of the most fun things to watch ever in bass fishing, because it was like, oh my gosh, this guy is on fire. You did everything right. There was no flaws in your fishing at Fork. There was nothing.
And when that train happens, you just got to ride it. Because I'm telling you, when it's your time, you can't control it. Like you couldn't do anything wrong, really. And I don't know how you buy that ticket to that train station. But I'm telling you, when it goes that way, you just got to ride it. And that's what I'm saying. Nobody was on that pattern for some reason. I was really surprised by that, because the guys in the Elite Series, they're the best in the world. They always figure the fish out. And for nobody to figure that out, it was pretty surprising. But, you know, fishing's always changing. They're kind of onto that pattern now. So when we go into Ray Roberts, we're just going to find the fish and find out what they're doing at that exact time, and just got to keep them honest. So
Yeah.
I am excited about Texas. I'm excited to get back out there. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, I just thought of something. If you had one lure you had to use for the rest of your life, one lure. I'm glad I thought of this, to be honest, because some smart ass is gonna go, why didn't you ask this question? I hate that. One lure the rest of your life. Well, one lure to use in the next tournament. What would it be?
A jig.
A jig.
Hands down.
Hands down.
Most versatile bait in the world. If I could only have one, that'd be the one I could pick, because I can throw it in 35 foot. I can throw a football jig and drag it on the bottom. I can throw a swim jig. I can reel it in 1 foot. I can do a swim jig in 25 foot on a Tennessee ledge. I can do it in grass. I'm flipping it under docks. I'm flipping it in cover. I mean, it's the most versatile bait in the world. So if I could only have one, it'd be a jig.
Awesome. Everyone, again, Patrick Walters, patrickswaltersfishing.com. Check him out on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Dude, I really do appreciate the time. I'm going to hit end here and then say goodbye to you off the air. But thank you very much for the time, and I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. And always, if you need me, just pick up the phone.
I know, I appreciate that. Hold on a second. Guys, we'll be back after this.
Introducing Shimano Dc Braking. Digital control will provide trouble-free casting to all anglers. DC will greatly improve the casting and therefore the fishing experience for anglers of all skill levels. Make long, accurate casts regardless of wind speed or direction. DC Brake provides trouble-free casting with a wide range of lures by simply adjusting the external dial. Even challenging casts are now within reach for all anglers. The newest innovation in braking systems, Shimano Dc Brake.
Hey guys, well, hopefully you enjoyed that interview with Patrick Walters. I got to say thank you to, of course, Tackle Webs for putting on another episode of Get Your Fish On. If you want some great ideas for that angler or yourself for Christmas, there's some Black Friday, some Black Friday specials already on tacklewebs.com, some stuff that you have not seen yet. So go to tacklewebs.com and check it out. They're not going to be technically you can see them. It's kind of hard to explain. You can see the pictures of the stuff that's going to come out. They're just not available yet. They're going to come out on Black Friday. So I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. We have another interview that's already been recorded. I'm going to talk to I'd already talked to Kevin Rogers, who's with the MPFL. Thank you, Hank, by the way, from the MPFL. I will put that one on tomorrow, roughly about the same time too. I think you'll like it. Kevin is a crappie fisherman who's just started to go back who's now jumping into the MPFL, and he has a great story, some great insights and more. So if you want to watch that, that'll be tomorrow. Let's just say 11 o'clock-ish. I'll do some of the live of this beforehand and then do the record. We got Bobby Lane coming on soon too. And if you guys like these, by all means tell me, because I can reach out to anglers. I could reach out to almost every angler and just talk fishing if you want to see more of this. So subscribe. Comment down below on the YouTube channel and tell me what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube and it's this late, make sure you subscribe be part of the team. And like I said at the beginning, if you want some of the prize packs, info at fishingfloridaradio.com. The throat's going again. You can hear it. It's been a rough weekend. I know we're on Wednesday, but it's been a rough weekend. But, you know, we'll get it all done. So thank you, Craig, and everybody for watching this. I appreciate it. I hope you have a blessed day. Remember to take a kid fishing, get your fish on. Oh, I didn't even tell you. I get the drone back today. Yay! If you didn't know, I will tell you the story right now before I say goodbye. So I have, you want a Shaw? I can get Shaw on for sure. So I have this lure. Here it is. Herb, you like the interviews. This lure right here. This is the Molix Sneaky Frog. Sorry, I got to look in back there. And I've had this twice. I've been trying to do a live a lure review, a closer look on this. Well, the first one I did, truth be told, sometimes when I go to the things, I just tie a real chintzy knot just because I want to cast and I just want to see how the action of the bait is. And the first time I did this, first cast in the water where I didn't think there was any fish. I just thought it was a barren, crappy pond. First cast, twitched it twice, bass came up, inhaled it, and got the lure. And I thought to myself, I'm not buying another one. It's like $13 for this lure. I did. I went and bought another one. I had to because it walks so beautifully. It's not even funny. I put the drone out further than you can ever imagine. It was out in Timbuktu in BFE. If you don't know what that means, I'm not going to say it because it'll get me demonetized. Out there in BFE. And I said to myself, and this is the God's honest truth, I was looking out there out in no man's land. I thought, there is no way I could hit that thing. But you want to know what? I should try. I made this cast, and in mid-cast, I knew that it was going to be really, really close. It was about 35 feet high. And I saw the lure going like this, and then right about here, I thought, you want to know what? It's going to hit it. So I grabbed hold of my spool as fast as possible, and there was still so much line going out. The next thing I know, the line went all into the drone's propellers. Now, being the smart person that I am, which I'm not, I set the hook like this. I'm not joking. I set the hook, and I started running backwards, thinking, obviously, I'm not as fast as I have imagined, and that maybe if I set the hook, it'll make the drone jump up in the air. I mean, I'm the dumbest person on the earth, and that I'll be able to get it. No, the drone just went boom right in the middle of the water. I get Keith on, no problem. I've been trying. Actually, Keith owes me one. I literally cried. I cried. I've lost. So there's nobody here at the house. And the only reason I'm looking around is I'm scared that if I say what I've lost this. Well, hold on. That many drones. I'm not joking. I've lost. I don't want to say it because you want to know what, the lightning will come down and you want to, and let me just preface. If anyone reminds my wife how many I've lost, I'm going to ban you from this whole thing that I got going on here. That's banning material. We have a team and a brotherhood. No, don't be telling her I lost that. Anyway, it dropped into the water. I had to get into my skinnies. I had my hook underwear on, and just, I had to go out in the middle of the pond and get it. Anyway, they finally, I bought insurance on it because I'm not stupid. I've lost one because I stepped on the controller and it ran into the water. I lost another one at ICAST because it flew 72 miles away. It's in Tampa right now. And then I lost another one just because I didn't know how to run it. I ran it right into the water. So this one I bought insurance on because it's a DJI one and it's so much better than the other ones I've had. Anyway, it comes today, so I'm going to go out and finish. Well, I'm not doing it today. I'm not doing it in any windy conditions. So anyway, so I'll try to get Keith. Shaw might be a harder one to get on. Shaw and I text each other and talk. And honestly, If I get Sean, I don't think we'll get any. I don't think we'll get any fishing talk done. That's the God's honest truth. He and I talk about everything that we shouldn't talk about except fishing. But I'll reach out to them and see. I know that I can get Keith on. He's already told me he'd come on. So anyway, tomorrow we'll have Kevin Rogers on. We got Bobby Lane Jr. coming up too, and I will reach out to these guys and do more interviews. So go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, like, comment, and click the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. Remember to take a kid fishing, get your fish on. Thank you to Tackle Webs, and I'll see you guys soon. Cheers, y'all.